It was a golden Saturday afternoon. The smell of smoked brisket, sizzling chicken wings, and freshly cut wood filled my backyard. I had set up my prized BBQ pit, a heavy steel smoker I had custom-built during my Army days. For me, grilling wasn't just about food, it was a tradition, a way of bonding with neighbors and family. Most of my street loved it. Neighbors peeked over the fence, waved, and even hinted at swinging by for a taste later. Kids played tag across lawns. Music played softly from a speaker, and the atmosphere was perfect. But of course, not everyone was happy. Across the street, Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, stood with her arms crossed, glaring at me like smoke itself was a crime. She had already written me up twice in the past. Once for leaving my trash cans out an extra day, another time for planting tomatoes too close to the sidewalk. Now, her sharp eyes locked onto my BBQ pit like it was an illegal nuclear reactor. She stomped over, heels clacking on the pavement. "Excuse me!" she barked, waving her HOA clipboard like it was a sheriff's badge. "Do you have any idea how much smoke you're producing? This is against HOA guidelines, Section 12, Subsection B. You're creating a hazard, not to mention an eyesore." I wiped my hands on a towel, kept calm, and smiled. "Karen, it's just a BBQ. I'm smoking brisket, not starting wildfires. Relax, the wind is carrying smoke away from houses." But she wasn't interested in reason. She pulled out her phone, her voice rising. "I'm reporting you. The fire department will shut this down. Let's see how smug you look when firefighters come and haul your illegal pit away." Gasps spread among the neighbors who overheard. Some tried to reason with her, telling her they loved the smell, that it was harmless. But Karen ignored them all, stomping back to her porch to make her emergency call. I shook my head, muttering under my breath. I had dealt with tougher than this in my military years. A little smoke wasn't going to break me. But secretly, I worried. Would the fire department actually come? Would they side with Karen and force me to dismantle my pit? 15 minutes later, my question was answered. The sound of sirens grew louder. Red lights flickered across the street as a fire truck pulled up in front of my house. Neighbors rushed out, recording on their phones. Karen stood tall with a smug grin, like a queen about to win her battle. The firefighters jumped out, helmets shining, boots heavy on the pavement. They marched toward me. My BBQ pit smoked proudly in the background. Karen pointed furiously. "There it is. Shut it down! He's violating HOA safety rules." But then, the lead firefighter stopped. He looked at me. His eyes widened. "Chief? Sir?" The crowd froze in silence, even Karen's smug grin faltered for a second when she heard the firefighter's words. The lead firefighter, a tall man with a soot-streaked face, adjusted his helmet and snapped to attention. His crewmates followed his lead, boots stomping in unison as they stood in a perfect line. "Chief, sir!" They barked together, voices carrying across the whole street. The neighbors gasped. Karen's jaw practically hit the pavement. She stammered, "Wait, what's going on?" "He's the violator! He's the one breaking HOA rules!" But the lead firefighter turned to her with a glare. "Ma'am, you will watch your tone. This man isn't just a homeowner. He's a decorated fire chief, retired but still respected in every department across the state." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. My old rank, my old life, memories of roaring flames, collapsing roofs, and rescues flashed through my mind. I hadn't worn the uniform in years, but clearly these men still remembered. I raised a hand calmly. "At ease, gentlemen. Today, I'm just a neighbor cooking for friends. Not your chief." But they didn't relax completely. One of them grinned and said, "Sir, it's an honor. Smells like you haven't lost your touch." Another nodded at the smoker. "That brisket looks like a 5-alarm masterpiece." Karen, red-faced, shrieked, "This is ridiculous. He's creating a public hazard. Look at all this smoke." The lead firefighter turned sharply. "Ma'am, this smoke is controlled. It's thin, steady, and exactly what a professional pitmaster produces. This isn't a hazard. If you want to see a hazard, come with me to a burning apartment complex at midnight. The neighbors laughed, some clapping quietly. Karen's face grew tighter. But the HOA rules! Section 12, subsection B. Another firefighter cut her off. Ma'am, with all due respect, we enforce fire safety, not your HOA handbook. And from what I see, there's no violation here. In fact, he looked back at me with a smile. We should be asking him for tips. Karen sputtered, but her voice was drowned out by my next move. I lifted the smoker lid. A wave of savory smoke billowed out, rich with flavor. The brisket's bark was dark and crispy, juices sizzling along the edges. The crowd groaned with hunger. Even the firefighters leaned closer, their tough faces softening. Tell you what, I said. Why don't you boys stick around for a plate? Consider it a small thank you for your service. The lead firefighter chuckled. Chief, sir, with your cooking, we'd be honored. The crowd erupted in cheers. But Karen? She stormed off to her porch, muttering furiously. I knew this wasn't over. With Karen, it never was. The smell of BBQ spread like wildfire. Ironic, considering the firefighters had just arrived. The men gladly accepted plates of brisket and ribs, sitting on my lawn like honored guests. Neighbors lined up too, laughing, talking, and enjoying the feast. Karen, meanwhile, sat on her porch with binoculars, seething. Her precious HOA clipboard trembled in her hands. She had expected the fire department to drag me off, to dismantle my smoker. Instead, she was watching uniformed professionals salute me while chewing on my ribs. She wasn't going to let this go. After a few minutes, she stormed back over, lips pursed tighter than a knot. This is unacceptable. You can't bribe the fire department with food. You're breaking the law, and when the HOA board hears about this, you'll regret it. The lead firefighter wiped sauce from his chin, looked her dead in the eye, and said, Ma'am, there's no law against grilling in your own yard. What this man is doing is safe and professional. If anything, I'd trust him to teach fire safety courses. The crowd chuckled. I stayed calm, but locked eyes with Karen. I could see the storm brewing in her head. You think you're clever? She spat at me. But I know the rules. HOA guidelines are law in this neighborhood. I finally stood up, brushing off my hands. Karen, HOA rules aren't law, and you've been twisting them to bully everyone here. Today, you picked the wrong fight. The neighbors cheered again, louder this time. Even the firefighters clapped, but Karen wasn't finished. She pulled out her phone once more and hissed, Fine. If the fire department won't stop you, I'll call the county inspector. Let's see if your little pit passes their code. Gasps rippled across the crowd. That was Karen's style. Always escalating, always dragging in more authority. One firefighter chuckled. Ma'am, county inspectors don't come running for BBQ smoke. They've got real work to do. But Karen smirked. We'll see about that. She stormed off, heels digging into the pavement like tiny hammers. The party continued, though everyone knew Karen was plotting her next move. She didn't just want my BBQ pit gone, she wanted me humiliated, crushed under the weight of her HOA rulebook. I leaned back in my chair, watching the sun dip lower. I wasn't scared. I'd faced infernos that could melt steel. Whatever Karen brought next, I was ready. The lead firefighter raised his glass of soda. Chief, I've seen flames, explosions, and chaos, but I swear, nothing scarier than an angry HOA president. We all laughed, but my smile faded as I noticed Karen on her porch again. This time, dialing another number with a wicked grin. Karen's wicked grin told me everything. I knew she wasn't calling a friend. Within half an hour, a white county vehicle rolled up. An inspector stepped out, clipboard in hand, scanning the crowd curiously. Neighbors groaned. Karen smirked like she had just summoned reinforcements for battle. There! She shouted, pointing at my smoker like it was a crime scene. That pit is unsafe! Shut it down immediately! Issue him a fine, tear it out, do whatever it takes. The inspector adjusted his glasses and walked toward me. Before he could say a word, the firefighters formed a line between us, standing tall. The lead firefighter spoke firmly. This man's setup is safe. We've checked it ourselves. He's not just a homeowner, he's our retired chief. He taught us how to recognize a hazard. And this? This is nothing but professional. The inspector raised his brows. You're telling me he's that chief? The one from Station 14? I gave a small nod. The inspector's expression shifted immediately, from skepticism to respect. He closed his clipboard with a snap. Well then, this isn't an inspection. This is an honor. Sir, you saved half this county with your work. If you're cooking, I trust it's safe. Karen's face turned scarlet. No! No, you can't just let him get away with this. He's breaking HOA rules. The inspector turned slowly, fixing her with a cold look. Ma'am, HOA rules are not the law. And from what I see, you've been wasting county resources with false complaints. If you keep this up, you'll be the one facing fines. The crowd erupted in cheers, phones out, capturing every second. Karen's jaw dropped, her voice shriveling into a whisper. This isn't over. She turned and stormed back to her porch, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. The inspector chuckled, shaking his head. Every neighborhood has one, huh? I smiled. Yep, but sometimes you've got to let the smoke speak louder than words. The firefighters laughed and raised their plates again. The neighbors gathered close, clapping me on the back, kids running up for seconds. The BBQ became a full-blown block party, with music, food, and laughter echoing down the street. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the fire truck lights glowed warmly, not as a warning but as a celebration. My brisket was gone, the ribs devoured, but the moment? That would last forever. The lead firefighter shook my hand one last time. Chief, sir, you didn't just serve us food today. You reminded us why we followed you in the first place. I nodded, looking around at smiling faces, even as Karen's blinds snapped shut. Sometimes, the hottest battles aren't fought in burning buildings. Sometimes, they're fought in your own backyard, with smoke, respect, and a BBQ pit that refuses to quit. Enjoying this wild HOA versus BBQ showdown? Hit that subscribe button for more jaw-dropping Karen stories. Also, give this a like if you had a laugh, and drop a comment below. What's the craziest HOA rule you've ever seen?